Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Rarebirds Mentor Deep Dive. Today, I'm joined by Belinda Paul, who's speaking on how she created strategies and partnerships to build a business. My name is Tegan, and I am the Partnership and Community Manager here at Inspiring Rarebirds. And in the spirit of reconciliation, Rarebirds would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. For those of you who are new to Inspiring Rarebirds, I would like to tell you a little bit about who we are. Our mission is to create, support and promote diverse and inclusive workspaces where opportunities in entrepreneurship and leadership exist equally for everyone. We are best known for our mentoring programs, but we also offer a range of educational masterclasses, mentor deep dives like we're in today, and we host online and in-person events to provide people with opportunities to build their networks and grow with the Rarebirds community. If you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Rarebirds or how to become involved with our programs, please indicate your interest in the survey at the end of today's session, or feel free to reach out to me or anyone in the Rarebirds team. I'd like to bring your attention over to the right-hand side of your screen. You'll be able to see a chat box there. Please feel free to introduce yourself, make comments, connect with others. You'll also see a tab for Q&A. We are taking questions from the audience at the end of the session, so feel free to pop any questions in there along the way. As mentioned, there will be a survey at the end of today's session. It would be amazing if you could complete this, as we'd really like to know what you enjoyed about today's session and also what you'd like to hear about from future sessions. We do take all feedback on board. Well, I'd like to welcome Belinda. She's talking to us today about her business journey and discussing her experience with strategies and partnerships. Belinda has worked in the fashion world for over 25 years and understands the demands placed upon this industry to always be ahead of the trend. Passionate about tackling the textile pollution problem, RCYCL provides a direct-to-consumer return satchel that allows people to easily recycle their used clothing at the end of its life cycle, and the service creates an immediate impact on the environment while contributing to a circular economy. So RCYCL champions consumers, retailers, and brand partners for enabling everyday recycling to be at the forefront of their purchasing mindset. Belinda believes in the notion of responsible consumerism, and it's imperative now more than ever. Belinda, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, Tegan. Just when you announced the Rarebirds and what you guys do, it made me think that I came across Rarebirds about 15 years ago, and it's awesome to be part of this, to give back.
Yeah, we love having you. So Belinda is also one of our amazing mentors. So definitely the Rarebirds community is, wide and varied, and we love having each and every one of you with us.
It's awesome.
All right, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining. So as Tegan said, my business is called RCYCL. My tagline is recycle your worn out clothes. I'm trying to make it as simple and easy as possible to understand. So what I might do when I take you through this is my journey. Please feel free to pop in any questions in the Q&A box for later on. Sorry, I'm just going to go back for a sec. And that's my Instagram tag. Feel free to jump on board. That's where you'll see all the exciting things that are happening in the world of RCYCL. So I always start here. This is my aha moment. This is the reason why I have ended up where I am right now. In the summer of 2019 and 2020, my family were caught in the bushfires, and these are some of the photos that really resonate. As I'm talking about it, I always get goosebumps and my heart sort of tends to have a bit of a flutter. In the picture with all the crowd, there's a circle, and that's where my family are when we're listening to the debrief of the day as to what we need to do and what the exit strategy is and so forth. And it was because of this particular moment that I started thinking about myself and my journey and my life and what I had done to date. And as Tegan mentioned, I've had many years in the fashion industry. I've been a buyer, a product developer, a brand manager, and I've been writing the thick of volume. And then being caught in a scenario like this really made me start to think about why is the environment sort of acting up like this, and what are our biggest polluters? And fashion, of course, is one of the biggest polluters in the world. So it made me really think about me and my reasoning and what I can do for the next step as to how to battle this myself as an individual. So with that comes my core values. And again, I always like to start here. I think it gives the business and the concept, you guys can understand my thinking in the lead up to the design and the product, which I'll get into. But me as an individual, I really value authenticity. I value collaboration, and I'm always curious as to everything that I go into. So I like to share that first and foremost, because that, again, has brought me to where I am. So these are the questions that I ask my brand partners the moment I get into a meeting. So today we're talking about brand strategies, we're talking about collaborations and partnerships. We're talking about disrupting to a positive, to make a positive change, and also how that leads into sales. So when I go into a meeting or when I start talking to people in retail, these are the questions that I ask first and foremost. So what initiatives have you executed that has enabled immediate impact? What immediate marketing message can you provide with those initiatives? And how much are you actually spending on your sustainability goals? I think retail and businesses at the moment have got so much in their head when it comes to sustainability that it's really hard to focus on one thing. So what I am trying to do is to help them focus on that one thing that can make that immediate impact, that they can have that immediate marketing message. So I just did a quick Google, and it's a very common, consumers demanding sustainability in Australia. The answer is yes. Yes, it's a rhetorical question. But my further question to that is, well, then how do we provide that? How does the industry provide consumers a sustainable option in which they can work with, in which they can access immediately? We all know consumers want it, but how are retailers and how is the fashion industry and the retail industry actually giving you what you want? So this is where my product comes into play. As you'll see, it's a little bag right in the middle of it. This is the outer packaging right here. And when you open it up, there's a larger bag. This is my small size. This can fit up to 6 garments. Has a consignment note on it, ready to go. So like any other returns, you purchase the bag, you take it out of the retailing space into your home, you fill it up with the clothes that you can't donate, only the clothes that will go in the bin. You simply seal it up, drop it off at a local drop-off point, and that gets sent through to my textile recycling partners. That gets made into new yarn and carpet underlay. So it's an immediate diversion from landfill. But I've popped this slide in because I really wanted you, as part of the brand strategy sort of scenario, I think this is really important for all brands, and just to sort of have a really think sort of, this is my product and what's next? Like, I'm solving a problem, I'm building trust, I'm offering a service. But what's the next layer? That the customer, make sure that the customer feels good, that we all feel good. I feel good that when I fill a bag and that I know that my old clothes aren't going to landfill. But what's in it for the businesses as well? That they want to make sure that their brand in the marketplace is strong and that they're presenting the right message, that their perception in the market is of a high standard, that they have all their data for their sustainability reporting, but they also contribute to a better world with less waste and a healthier environment. So being in the sustainable space, I have filtered back every part of my business to a sustainability goal. So this is a UN run program. It is worldwide. It just allows for businesses to stay on the right track when it comes to their missions and what they're actually trying to contribute to the environment. Okay, so now this is where we get into the nitty-gritty of the product and the whole notion of making something easy to break down, to think about how we clean out our wardrobes and what we can do. Takes me back to that fire slide to say, okay, so where am I at in my life? What skills have I got that I can pivot to bring something to market to make an immediate impact? And for me, it was bringing a product to market. And I am a consumer. I'm the first person to put my hand up and say that. But I also clean out my wardrobe, and as we all do. And when I clean out my wardrobe, I have my hand-me-down pile that everyone knows what to do there. It's for our family and our friends. Then we have that op shop pile. Again, everyone knows what to do there. We send it to the op shop. But then it's that third pile of broken, stained, ripped clothing that has been worn through, the kids' sports uniforms and school uniforms, the cheap T-shirts that we've thrown in the wash 5 times and they've disintegrated. What happens to all of that stuff? So I've recently learned in this whole journey that the op shop has to deal with all of those items. And the op shops and the charity sector in Australia, to my surprise, can only make profit from approximately 16% of their intake. So when you think about that tiny portion, that 16%, there is a lot of clothes that cannot be reused, cannot be regenerated anywhere else. And for me, that was a little bit astounding. So I'm focusing on the end of life. I'm focusing on the garments that you would only throw in the bin. So the service model is that the customer buys a bag at point of sale or on my website. They take it home, they fill it, and they drop it off at a local Sendle drop-off location. Sendle is 100% carbon neutral, as you can see. It's a B Corp, and for me, it resonated with my business. I've built my business around them as a freight service, and that is my first example of a key collaborator to make sure that the people who I align my business with represent, and their ethos is exactly the same as mine. So example, so the smaller bag that I have you can fill up to 6 garments for just a really quick clean out of your wardrobe. There's a medium bag which will fit up to 10 smaller garments. And so when I say smaller garments, it's all the everyday stuff. You know, it's the T-shirts that we wear, the shorts, as I said, the kids' uniforms, that kind of, those kind of items. And then I've been asked to do a larger bag, which I'm trialing at the moment, which has been really popular. So that can fit up to 20 garments. You know, sometimes it's not that quick and easy. Sometimes we do stockpile until we get that right amount. So that's the one for you guys if you're in that space. So my second example of key collaboration partners is Mirvac Shopping Centre. So again, coming out of the fashion world, I understand the demands faced upon the fashion industry. I love that it's a dynamic industry. It's a wild industry. It's also an economy that supports women and supports migrant workers. So it's a really important economy in Australia. So I looked to Mirvac to team up, and we ran a national promotion called Big Spring Clean. And so that happened at the start of September. It was the idea and the notion of, as people are walking into the shopping centre, they're going in with the idea to buy something new. What do they need for the season? What do they need for their for the weather change? And what do they need to think about in doing that? So when they're walking into the centre, they can sort of understand and feel, yes, we are here to buy something new, but what do we have at home? What do we have in our wardrobes that are already there that we can't do anything with, that we can't donate? So we offered big bins and through the centres for people to come in and to place their old garments in, and it was astounding. The amount of positive feedback from everyone who was part of this promotion was amazing. It validated to me that this is actually needed in the market, and it was just amazing. It was amazing to see it roll out like this. And so these are some of my key partners. My strategy here is I have aligned my business with partners of trust, that partners who are established in the market. I think for me, it was a matter of going into these businesses, working alongside them, championing their efforts and their already existing processes so that RCYCL can simply be a plug and play opportunity for them, and for them to be highlighted, not RCYCL as a brand, for them to be highlighted, to say, well, look at what we're doing for the environment. Look at how we can do it. Look at how easy it is for us. So I think that is a really key point when it comes to partnerships, is that we have to look at it from both angles and say, look, it has to enable a win-win for both, and to make sure that both parties are coming out and they're happy with the result. So I started my journey with RCYCL, and it sort of led me to a few different product offerings. Now, these haven't been launched to market yet, so this is a bit of secret stuff. But for me, RCYCL, it covers the tier of the fashion industry in volume. It's the garments that aren't really of a high quality. They're rotated fast. They're produced not in a way which is meant to last, unfortunately. And they're the garments that get thrown into the recycle bags. However, I have been asked, working with the retail industry, to have an offering for the mid-ranged products. So if you think amazing brands like Camilla and Mark, who have such a high loyal following, that every season or every drop they update silhouettes, they update color palettes, but all of their old stuff or their past seasons garments are still of a really high quality. So the idea is that, again, the consumer will purchase this bag. It's about the rotation. It's about making sure that it's in their mindset when they grab these bags at point of sale, so they're invested in their sale, and then they bring it home into their wardrobe and they can see their wardrobe for what it is. So they simply take out their old garments, put it in a bag, and then put in their new garments ready for the season to be utilized and loved and worn. And then there's that high end. So when we think that when we invest in dresses or garments that have cost us a lot of money, and the hem has been let down, or my heel has gone through the hem, or the zip's broken, or a button's been lost and I can't find it, or whatever it may be, this is where the repair option comes into it. Sustainably speaking, it's the best option for us to wear our clothes for as long as possible. So I've teamed up with social enterprises in capital cities. And again, this is for a customer to purchase the bag. They put their garment in it that needs to be repaired, and it gets sent off to the social enterprise. So these two concepts are still yet to be released. We've got people looking at them and retailers looking for them at the moment. So keep your eyes peeled. And again, this comes back down to, I've covered the whole concept sort of part of it, and now I'm going into the design partnership sort of arrangement. So the benefit to industry, and what I'm trying to do, is to give the industry an easy option, that they don't have to think about it, that they can offer out this product at point of sale and allow for us all as consumers to have the option to easily access a service in which we can repair our clothes, we can donate our clothes, or we can recycle our clothes. So the give back, as I mentioned earlier, 16% of donations that come through the charity sector can't generate profit. So they have approximately, this is the charity sector, allocate an $80 million per annum landfill allowance. And so again, for me, it just blows my mind. Like, how can we as consumers and as a nation accept this? And so just trying to chunk things down. And the same with the repair service. Let, key partnerships, working with social enterprise, allowing them to receive another revenue or source of revenue for their staff, and allowing us as consumers to get the longevity out of our clothing. So I've been really grateful, including this one, to be seen as a little bit of a voice in the industry. I started working with the Australian Fashion Council about a year ago, and that's been amazing. We launched at Melbourne Fashion Week last year. I've been on various podcasts. I was featured in the War on Waste, and I do a lot of talk panels. For me, that's my way. As I said earlier about the Rare Birds community, it's my way just to give back. Recently, I won the City of Melbourne Sustainability Award in the last couple of weeks, so that was super exciting. I've also been accepted into different programs that puts me in front of businesses like EY that can assess my business and that can really look at the nuts and bolts and how we can roll this out at a bigger scale. And in part of all that, I thought that it would be in my best interest, as well as the best interest of the environment, to become a social enterprise. So what that means is that it just means that 100% of my business goes back to the environment. It's 100% for impact. Yes, I have to put my kids through school, but my biggest want for this business is that for all of us to have access to a really simple solution, that we don't have to feel overwhelmed or daunted by all of the stats that are coming through to us on the news every single day, that we can just simply feel empowered ourselves to do something and to just have a really simple action and feel great about it. And so this is my game plan. So working with charities to be part of the education piece so that people know that they don't always have to dump and run. To work with universities and retail precincts to have vending machines so that we can all access it. We can just simply access a bag in which we can fill and take away. We can take away and then fill. And then to work with the retail industry so that, again, it's easy, it's available, it's accessible for all of us. Now, I think I'm going to get Tegan back on board to do the Q&A.
Thanks, Belinda. What
exciting enough for everyone?
It was an amazing story. I think it's, sounds like there is something different that you're doing in the community, and actually sounds like you're disrupting the community a little bit in that fashion space. And we all know what it's like to have that third pile of clothes that we don't know what to do with. So I guess on that, what do you think is an out-of-the-box strategy that you tried to bring positive change to the industry? And did it work the way you expected it to?
Yeah, look, I think I have to be brutally honest here and say being a disruptor in the early days really didn't resonate with me. I didn't like that word. I wanted just to sort of just be part of it. How can I just roll into the industry and just sort of fit in? And that was never going to happen. I think I had to learn to love the word disruptor. And so the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question is that last year when we launched the business to market during Fashion Week, that was very strategic. It was, I had spoken to every single national retailer in the months leading into Fashion Week, and all the businesses whom I was speaking to were just sort of sitting on their hands a little bit and thinking, oh, look, we'll just think about it. We'll think about it. So for me, went straight to Melbourne Fashion Week and said, how can we partner? How can I be one of your major sponsors? What can I do? So that meant that every person who went to the runways had a bag that they could utilize, that we ran events alongside the runways. We had graffiti artists, we had activations in which landfill and, you know, old clothes was on show in displays. And again, it wasn't a negative. And I think that's what I had to deal with as a business owner, that disruption isn't necessarily a negative. I'm looking at it as a positive, and I'm looking at it as an opportunity.
Yeah. So you did mention that, you know, you went to the people who run Australian Fashion Week to try and work with them. How do you get yourself in front of those potential partners, those potential collaborations, especially if you're just kind of kicking things off and maybe I know you've been in the industry for a while, but maybe for someone who isn't really well known in an industry?
Yeah, look, and that's a really good question. I think you just have to be persistent. Even though I had been in the industry for many years, I also came out of the industry to have babies, and so I took a fair few years off. So it's just being persistent and really believing in what you're doing. I think if you want to reach out to big brands, and which is what my aim was from day dot, I think being at the forefront of sort of look and being seen as a recycling brand, trust has to come into the factor immediately. And so I was just persistent, constantly emailing, constantly ringing. I was that person who hassled and hustled until I got that meeting.
Yeah. So I guess then what was the most surprising thing you learned about collaborations? Did you have any unexpected wins or challenges as well?
I was so surprised that everybody is looking for something like this. For me, in my head, you know, we're all in our own heads when we start businesses, especially, and in life, that in my head, I knew everyone wanted this, but in their heads, they're like, oh, this is a great idea, but how can I utilize it, or how can I bring it on board, and all the rest of it. For me, it was really surprising that everybody was interested. Everybody wanted to have a part of it. Nobody wanted to pay for it because recycling is expensive. And I think that's my biggest pain point right now, is that the government has to come to the party. So it is just hard. It's just hard to sort of get that across the line. But to answer your question, Melbourne Fashion Week was amazing last year. And now for Melbourne Fashion Festival, which is a different event, I've been asked to run my own event, and that is next March. So that gives me validation, again, that I'm doing the right things. I'm working alongside the industry in a way that is celebrated. We want to celebrate fashion. We want to celebrate our clothes. We want to celebrate the women and men who make it. So we should really appreciate all of our garments. And so for me, yeah, it's validation that that I can keep on going. So stay tuned, everyone, for next March.
I think that really goes to show that the persistence pays off. So be tenacious. I guess also, and I know this is a little bit of insider information, but you were talking when we were chatting this week that you had a surprising collaboration and one that you weren't expecting from the sports area. Tell us a bit about that one.
Yeah, so I think, again, you never know what's around the corner. And I put in my core values as curiosity for a reason. And I wanted to talk to that because I think with any kind of business and with all of us in life, and we've got so many hats on at any given stage, but when we're open to being curious about what can happen, you just don't know what's going to fall in your lap. So I started the business in my head and thinking that I would be partnering with the retail space and the fashion space. And yes, it's happened to some degree, not as what I would have hoped, but it has happened and that process has started. But what has happened, which has surprised me, is that I've started working with the sporting industry because they have such a huge volume of uniforms. So I'm working with the AFL, I'm working with Basketball Australia about how do we take back all of the uniforms that these athletes wear when the sponsors change, when the events change, when they've come out of that you know, that round, if it's a sustainability round or if it's a women's round or whatever round it is, but everything is branded these days for the actual event, which means that most of the time these athletes can't wear them ongoing. So a lot is that way. So that's come out of nowhere, and it's so appreciative.
Yeah, amazing. It is absolutely true. You do see them with a different uniform on every week. So obviously, you know, your business is well on the way now, and you're kind of just taking that next step all the time. If you look back on things now, was there any moment that you would be able to go, wow, that moment is the moment that really shaped where we are now?
There's a couple, and that's just working with key brands and key alliances. You know, when Maya said to me, can you come on board and be at point of sale, that changed my world, because that put it in the public space. They put that at point of sale, and then following that, they did a huge visual merchandising campaign, which, again, even for me coming out of the industry, I only thought that kind of retail space was allocated to brands like Chanel and Lancome, and to see my brand, you know, on the lifts and in display units throughout the flagship stores was absolutely phenomenal. Again, every win needs to be celebrated, and it gave me validation just to wake up the next morning and keep going.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess the last one before we go to audience Q&A, and guys, don't forget to pop your questions in the Q&A tab, because we are getting to them in a moment. A big one is, and I think I have seen it pop up a few times already, how does your sales model work? You know, what's the structure, and how did you make it appeal to all of the stakeholders involved?
Yeah, look, and that's, I think, is really important. And I think that's been a real key out of me coming to the market and being different. And that's because I've had my buying hat on and my production hat on. If I was on the other side of me in a meeting, and this person's coming to me and saying, look, I've got an amazing business, it's called RCYCL, this is what I can offer you. And I would say, first and foremost, well, how much is it going to cost my business? What does it cost? And so with that in mind, all of these bags and all of my product is sold into retailers at a wholesale price. So that means that they buy it at a wholesale price like they would any other product in their product offering, and they on-sell it for a tiny, tiny margin to the customer. So that means that first and foremost, they are not spending an excessive amount of money on their sustainability initiatives. It's actually coming on board as their product. And I've done this because when I was thinking about my concept and my design and my product and my partnerships and my sales process, I was thinking, well, who is the first person who I'm going to be speaking to? And that will most likely be the sustainability manager. So then I sort of start thinking, and that goes back to those questions that I showed you earlier, is what, you know, asking those hard questions and then going, okay, so this is how I can answer those questions for you. And that sustainability manager normally says, amazing, I love it, I'm going to take it to the next level, which is the CFO or the buying manager or whatever it may be. But the first question they ask is, how do we make money on it? So I wanted to make sure that for every element and every level of C-suite or management who I was talking to, that I actually appealed to them in some way, shape or form. And to be fair, you know, I wanted it to resonate with each and every level. So that was my strategy.
Yeah, so it's really kind of putting yourself in the shoes of the organization you're approaching and figuring out what their, I guess, management journey is to get your product across the line.
Exactly. And just breaking it down to a point where just to make it easy for them to say yes.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so we are going to go to some Q&A. So let's have a look here. Okay, so I mean, Louise has asked about the profit margins.
Yep.
So we did cover that, but I guess you did mention government needing to come on board before. I guess from your perspective, what are you hoping the government will do, or what is even possible for the government to do, not just in your business, but I guess across many businesses?
Yeah, no, That's amazing. Thanks, Louise. As I said, I mentioned that I'm working with the Australian Fashion Council, and they put together last year something called the Product Stewardship Scheme, and the government actually gave them a grant to put together a strategy as to how retailers and how the industry can reduce their impact on landfill and reduce their environmental footprint. So the government, and we've seen this with, things like tyres and plastics and things like that, they tend to legislate. They tend to sort of assess the landscape and how that works, and then they come in hard and say, well, okay, these are the rules from now on. This is what you've got to do. That hasn't happened in the fashion industry as yet. That hasn't happened in the retail space when it comes to clothing and clothing waste and textile waste. So I think everyone's kind of waiting for that point to see what happens and what that looks like and what does that mean. Regardless, it will have an amazing impact on the environment. Right now, where we sit today, every year, 200,000 tonnes of clothing waste goes into our landfills in Australia. And that is an excessive, ridiculous amount, because when you break that down further, it means that each of us individually are purchasing up to 56 garments a year. And again, to break that down even further, 56 garments, if we think of bringing out 56 garments out of our wardrobes, that's a lot. Out of those 56 garments that we allegedly or apparently bring into our wardrobes every year, we would only wear those garments less than 10 times before discarding them or before we cannot wear them any longer. So if you think large scale and you bring it down to an individual level, and if you bring it down even further again, that's huge. So whatever the government does to look at it and to change it will be a huge, huge advantage.
And have you or anyone else in your space been able to get in front of the government to talk about this, or is that still to come?
Yeah, look, I hustle. I do. I try. I have. I've spoken to my local ministers, and I can see that's what Erna has asked in the questions. So I get in front of my local ministers, and and have a conversation. Just get an appointment, have a conversation. These are my intentions. These are my big picture goals. This is what I want to see. This is how I'm doing it. This is how I've done it so far. How can you help me? I think it's just those questions, and to be as direct as you possibly can. This is what I'm looking for. How can you help me? Who do you know? Who do I talk to? Who can you refer me on to? Who can you recommend that I can talk to, please?
Yeah. All right, and so we've got a question here from Venusa, again about partnerships and how to get them on board. So she looks like she's having a little bit of problem getting her product in front of people who will kind of jump on board with it. What would you suggest as kind of a, I guess, getting across the line strategy?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think you really do need to break it down to say, well, what are their winning points in which what they're looking for, and how can you solve those? I think it's really hard obviously every product is different, and happy for you to reach out, Vanessa, and happy to have a quick conversation about what I can do to help or any advice that you may need. I'm not the guru or the expert. However, it's always fun to brainstorm with somebody else and just to say, well, look, this is what I'm doing. How can we do it better? Going through the channels via email and so forth. But if you have a product, send them the product. Make sure they can touch and feel that product. Let them know your wins if you've got any wins. Let them know where you're starting from and what your intentions are. I think that's just that really is the key points.
Yeah, great. And with your journey, how long did it, and this is a question from Jenny, sorry, I should say, how long did it take from idea to launch? And I guess what's your basic launch checklist?
Yeah, so thanks, Jenny. I have had this business for just over 2 years. I think with the experience that I've had pre-kids, I couldn't have bought RCYCL as a brand and made it what it was without that experience and that background knowledge. So it's taken me 2 years to get where I am. It's nowhere near where I want to be, but there is progress. And as I keep saying, there's validation in the market for me to keep going. So it's, everyone always talks about the overnight success, but the overnight success normally takes 5 years. And so I think if we, as product people and disruptors, look to accept the long game, then I think that's more digestible. I hope that's answered your question.
And just a quick one here from Helen. She said she's just binned a perfectly good kids bike helmet. Do you accept, things like that, or can you direct people to where they should be sending them?
Yeah, so I think all items that are perfectly good, donate them, pop them into your local charity. That is such an important avenue for us as a nation to make sure that that people can go to charity shops and to go there first, almost, if they've got things that are of value. I don't take bike helmets and so forth. The reason why I started with apparel was because for me, it was just the easiest option in terms of thinking about our wardrobes and thinking about what we've got to discard. And that's why I started with apparel. But there are so many different initiatives that do shoes, that do plastics. It's actually, there's so many out there. So, but I think with perfectly good items, absolutely pop them in the charity bin.
Great. So I have another here from Vioma. So how do the recycled items get reused? Would you want to monetize that by giving first-time recyclers the ability to purchase recycled material clothing? So do you do any initiatives like that? Do you offer like first-time initiatives, other initiatives to kind of get people up to uptake more often?
In the grand scheme of things, I should. I just don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. And also because I am not a recycler, I am just the conduit between the consumer and the retailer and the recycling partners. So with apparel, it goes through to this particular recycler, and they have got a partner mill in India, in Australia. And the reason why the government needs to come to the party is that there's no recycling opportunities in Australia for apparel. There is none. There is no machines in this country that can do what we need it to do. So in India, I've known the factory that is being utilised has come out of the fashion game. They have partnered with the textile recycler for over 20 years. They've worked together beforehand to create new yarns. And so what happens is that with all of the fibres that are natural, so cotton, hemp, linen, they will get made into new yarn, and all of the polyester-based materials, which are the plastic-based fibres, which are a lot in our world these days. We all wear 60% of polyester, or that's what the contribution is in our wardrobes. That gets made into carpet underlay. So, it's the way that is. It's what's happening right now. It's not the perfect solution. I think that Australia, if we are producing this waste, that we need to be responsible for it. So in time, I hope to come back to you guys and say, hey, this is what the pathway is now for recycle. But right now, this is the only option that is authentic, that has covered modern slavery, has covered ethical sourcing, just to make sure that it is a genuine pathway.
Yeah. And Georgia has asked, just on that thread, is there a good demand for textiles at the end point and processing into new products, or do you have to drive demand there as well?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It is about driving demand. It is about making sure that whatever the input is, that there's an output solution as well. So right now, I think what my biggest focus is that we've got so much output. How do I help to fix that output, that waste, before we go to the next step, and before we sort of think about, all of the ones in the lead up? There's so many there's so many designers and buyers out there at the moment who are looking to work with natural fibers so that the designs that go to market can be composted. And I also see that Georgia has said, has asked about the bags. So the bags are 100% compostable. I say compostable with emphasis because there is a big difference between compostable and biodegradable. So compostable means that they will break down regardless of where they are. The bags are made out of cornstarch. All the stickers are compostable also. So there's no waste in any of this packaging. Biodegradable, and I know a lot of brands use biodegradable, that just simply means that it will biodegrade, but by law, the brands don't actually say how long it will take to biodegrade. So it could take 3 days or it could take 500 years, but they're still allowed to use that term. So for me, I'm emphasizing compostable. Again, you know, and I'm on this journey as well. I'm making sure that whatever option I bring to market, I assess it. I work out the best case scenario, and I've got the ability to constantly change to see what works better as new technologies come into the market, as new products come into market. I'm just constantly looking for new alternatives.
Yeah. And so when you were first starting out, did you find that there was a lot of education that you needed to do? Amanda's asking the question.
Yeah, and that's a really key point, Amanda. So I actually have turned to that education piece also, which is why I work with Rare Birds, you know, with events like this. I also work with universities to talk to the students who are doing sustainability courses and fashion courses, just to think outside the box, as what to your words earlier, Tegan, just to say, well, yeah, we do need to educate people. Absolutely we do, because it's out of sight, out of mind. And when we have clothes and we throw them in the bin, like most of our garbage, we don't really worry about what happens next. We just sort of we just sort of think, oh, look, it will get looked after. So education is huge. It's key. It's something that I haven't nailed, or the industry hasn't nailed, but it's definitely a work in progress.
So along that line, Vanessa's also asking, you know, how do the customers find you? You've talked about partnerships, collaborations. Is there any kind of hands-on strategies you could suggest for people looking to gain that customer into their own businesses?
Yeah, look, I think, well, that comes back down to education and trust. I saw in the comments that trust is a big factor, and I think first and foremost, you've got such a tiny opportunity you've got such a tiny opportunity as a brand to show that you are a trusted source to your consumers. And I think if you can do that as early as you possibly can, then that will resonate and hopefully drive your loyalty. You know, again, I haven't got that right, but it's a constant work in progress to make sure that I can be in front of people like you guys. I can work with universities, I can work with retailers, I can work alongside the charities, and I can see that there's a comment there about the charities. So looking to just educate people who utilize the charities and who donate to the charities that there is an option to recycle. There is an option that you don't have to put those garments in the charity bins, that you can do it. And there's also a question, Louise says, that nobody wants to pay for it. And you're absolutely right. Nobody wants to pay for it. And that's why it hasn't been done before. It's really expensive. It's an expensive process to recycle. And that's why nobody's done it. So for me, that's a learning. It's not something that I want to give up on, but it's definitely a pain point for me to bring something to the market and something to consumers and something to everybody. But yeah, it is a paid service.
Yeah. So I guess that's where those education pieces and that your partnerships are kind of really strong in putting out what you're doing, what your brand is. Along, I guess, those lines, how can you tell if a partnership is going to be successful, or what do you look out for to be like, you know what, you are a person that I think would work in partnering with my brand?
Yeah, I think volume is one element that comes into play. I think that in starting this business, I wanted to bring it to the public, to the everyday person, and allow sort of a product like mine to be in every household. But along the way, you know, again, and I'll bring it back down to the Maya scenario, is that if it can be seen to work alongside your purchases, if it can be seen to work alongside how we all consume as individuals, and how we can sort of start to put that into our mindset when we do buy things. The example that I'd like to use always is the Afterpay scenario. So when we walk into a retailing environment and there's an Afterpay sticker on the front window, immediately our brains sort of subconsciously say, well, we can buy anything we want. If our payments are going to be staggered for the next 6 months, sure, let's go for it and, you know, knock ourselves out and we'll buy everything. And I think that's kind of the mentality that we have to sort of switch into in the future. And so I'm just at the start of this. The whole industry and the whole mindset change is very much at the start. I think, you know, that will grow as people start talking about it, as people start realizing that we need to do something. And also because we're bombarded in the media about the floods that are happening, the bushfires that are happening. It doesn't happen that the world, you know, has got all of these world concerns at the moment, that people start thinking internally and looking internally and saying, well, how can I help? What can I do?
Yeah, amazing. So it sounds like you and RCYCL have had an amazing, you know, start and kind of, again, I'm going to use the word that you've only just gotten used to, disrupting of the industry. I guess it's a watch this space to see what happens next.
Absolutely. It's definitely a watch this space. You know, as I said, I'm not claiming to know it all or be part of it all, but I'm really excited for the journey. And I think that also comes back down to, you know, to the comments about product and bringing it to market. It is a journey. Like, it's all an adventure. You just never know what's around the corner. And, you know, it is a long game, but if it is for impact and it is for immediate impact and it is for in my case, it is to make sure that I don't want to say to my kids, put their runners on. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes or 5 hours when we're running out of a bushfire. I don't want that to ever happen to me or anybody else's family.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It sounds like it's been an amazing journey so far, and we're really excited to see what's going to happen next. Everyone, thank you for joining us as well. Don't forget to fill out your surveys. We would love to hear your feedback on today's session, and also, you know, what other sessions we can provide for you. And hope to see you all again in the next Mentor Deep Dive. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.